What's happening? Welcome in. The Matt Bernier Show, DRF TV, live.drf.com, livestream.com, the Daily Racing Forum's Twitter handle, that would be at DRF Inside Post, as well as the Daily Racing Forum's Facebook page. My name is Matt Bernier. You can follow me on Twitter, at Bernier_Matt. This is the recap edition of the Matt Bernier Show, taking a look back at the racing weekend of April the 14th, and we got a couple of races from Friday, April the 13th as well, a couple of grade ones for that matter. If you are listening to this in podcast form, like most of you do, you have YouTube, you have iTunes, SoundCloud, video.drf.com. If you're watching on YouTube, click that subscribe button. You will subscribe to the Daily Racing Forum's YouTube channel. You will get all the latest offerings from DRF TV. Let's dive right into it. The final 100-point prep, as far as the Kentucky Derby prep races was concerned, came up on Saturday afternoon. This was the field for the Grade 1 Arkansas Derby. Field of 9. They were all going to need to beat the heavy morning line favorite for Todd Pletcher, horse called Magnum Moon, 3 for 3 in 3 lifetime starts, has not done anything wrong, has won from slightly off of the pace, has won from pressing the pace. He was going to be the favorite on Saturday afternoon, but he would need to deal with horses like Quip, the winner of the Tampa Bay Derby, horses like Solomini, who, making his second start as a 3-year-old, figured to need that start in the Rebel to be ready to go and fire at his peak. Would Magnum Moon be able to defeat all of them? Or would someone come up and try to make a big statement and say, we're here, we also have reason to believe that we can run well the first Saturday in May? Let's find out. Vic Stoffel.
Derby and Magnum Moon cuts the corner and leads. Magnum Moon has suddenly opened up a 3.5 length margin. Combatant to the outside of Solomini. Magnum Moon comes to the final 16th, and he's going to be an undefeated Arkansas Derby winner. Get ready, Kentucky. There's a bad moon on the rise.
Magnum Moon, much the best, winning the Grade 1 Arkansas Derby $1 million race. Pays $3.60 on top as the 4-5 favorite. Quip runs second as a 6-1 choice, and the third place finisher is the number 5, Solomini. He was your second choice in the race, bet down to odds of 5-2. Magnum Moon is a 3-year-old colt. He is owned by Robert E. and Luana L. Lowe. He's 4 of 4 lifetime, over $1.1 million in career earnings, trained by Todd Pletcher. If you haven't gotten used to the name already as far as the Derby is concerned, Todd Pletcher has an army going into Louisville, including Magnum Moon as one of his sort of key players for the Kentucky Derby. This horse was bred by Ramona S. Bass, LLC in Kentucky, ridden to victory by Luis Saez. You see the pedigree at the bottom of the page. He is by Malibu Moon out of an unbridled song mare named Dazzling Song. A 98 Beyer speed figure for Magnum Moon, a 116 time Form US rating. He came home in 11.99 for the final eighth of a mile. That is important, and it's usually a nice little barometer looking forward anyway. Knowing that they're going to need to go another eighth of a mile here in 3 weeks at Churchill Downs underneath the Twin Spires, how they come home, how they finish, that's an important key. Maybe not necessarily deciphering a winner. I mean, obviously it's important, but even for looking for those minor awards, if you're looking to construct wagers like trifectas and superfectas, Magnum Moon is a very, very talented horse. But there are a couple things about this Arkansas Derby that need to be acknowledged. Timeform US has the 3/4 and at the top of the lane, those fractions color-coded blue, meaning they were slow. That certainly aids and helps a horse like Magnum Moon, who's out there on the front end. They went fast early, that opening quarter in 23-1, but you see that second quarter, they backed it down significantly. The half-mile number was 48-3. Quick math, that's giving you, what, about a 25-2 second quarter? That's a relatively slow tempo, slow pace, and you could see that because Magnum Moon's ears were up and he was loving life, just galloping on the front end. Quip sat just off of him throughout. I think it was a very good effort from Magnum Moon, but we need to acknowledge some other pieces as well. When they're rounding the far turn and Magnum Moon and Quip are eyeballing one another, it looks all well and good, and sure, Magnum Moon basically shrugs off Quip, but you have to acknowledge the early lead change coming off of the far turn. Generally speaking, that's not a good thing. Can possibly mean a physical issue, or it could just mean that they're not putting it all together. The problem I have with that latter statement is he had done everything professionally prior to that. So all of a sudden, now you throw this into the mix. Not something I love to see 3 weeks out from the biggest race of his life. Also, that stretch run, he may have come home much faster than anyone else in this race, but you can't argue with the fact that he drifted out about 5 paths down the center of the racetrack. He finished very well. He's a nice horse. I have no real knock against him. How can you? He's 4 for 4. But there are those couple little things that would probably make me think twice before picking a horse like this the first Saturday in May. Not saying he can't win, certainly can, but I think a couple things. That little lead change early, and I understand the amount of people that say they don't care about lead changes, and I just harp on it. I don't really care. This is not for you. Don't listen. Fast forward if it bothers you. Early lead change is usually a sign that it's not a positive, put it that way. Drifting out, not usually a positive thing. Now you've got to go an extra eighth of a mile in 3 weeks. It's a lot to throw at a horse that did not debut until he was 3. As far as his speed figures are concerned, another thing that I'm a little bit unsure of where we stand with this horse. 98 Beyer, not a heck of a lot faster than the career debut. I believe he earned a 95 in his debut, and he has lived in that 95 to 98 range. That's fast, don't get me wrong, but when you've got a horse like Justify running 107s, and you possibly have a horse like Mendelssohn running a mid-100, and you have a horse like Good Magic who's run a 100 as a 2-year-old, and possibly, maybe he's ready to go, Magnum Moon's going to need to run the race of his life in 3 weeks. All of them are going to need to run the race of their life, but Magnum Moon is going to need to up his game substantially in order to be the one to win the Run for the Roses. Quip, I thought Quip ran just fine. I wonder if this, to me, shows that he's not quite of the top level. But at the same time, keep in mind, he had not run since the first or second week in March. So this was a nice little gap for him, and this was only his second start as a 3-year-old. So I suppose there's reason to believe that he can move forward in 3 weeks' time. He's just another one. He got a 94 as far as a Beyer is concerned in that Tampa Bay Derby. He earns a 92 here. He's going to need to improve, plain and simple. Solimini, I was against him coming into this race for a couple reasons. I thought his most recent workout was just putrid, and he's always been a little bit unprofessional as far as the lead changes are concerned, which is a very odd thing because Bob Baffert's entrants are never unprofessional. They are usually like clockwork, very similar to Todd Pletcher's horses, and that's probably why when these things happen for these trainers, it's a major red flag. It makes your ears go up and go, wait a minute, something's not right here. Solimini, he's just not professional as far as the lead changes are concerned, but he ran a heck of a lot better than I thought he was going to on Saturday. He was wide every step of the way. He came with a bid rounding the far turn, and he stayed on. He fought on gamely. He was very late with the lead change. He didn't change until he was inside the 16th pole. But it was a better effort than I thought we were going to get, but the problem is still, he's not fast enough right now, and I'm not convinced that he's taken a step forward from 2 to 3. I'm also starting to wonder, I understand he came home in 12-19, just a shade under 12-1. I'm starting to wonder if maybe he's not, as the distances go longer, is he going to get better? Maybe he's a one-turn kind of horse. Maybe a middle distance is going to be more preferential for a horse like Solimini. Combatant is what he is at this point. He keeps showing up with these late runs. I think he still wants shorter. That's just my opinion. I would love to see him in a race like the Pat Day Mile, a one-turn mile. Let him come from off the pace and just let him roll. This race really, though, boils down to the winner in Magnum Moon. What do you think of his chances going forward? He hasn't done anything wrong on the racetrack. And that's why, for me, it's difficult to sit here and say, well, I didn't like this, I didn't like this, I didn't like this, because all this horse has done is gone out and won by open lengths in all 4 of his lifetime starts. The problem is there are enough little things for me that could possibly equate to a big thing to make me a little bit leery about him going forward. Am I going to be saying right now that I won't pick him? Maybe. We've got to wait and see how the post positions go and how everybody trains leading up to the Derby. But he's a nice horse. I like him a lot. I'm a little bit concerned with some of the things that we saw on Saturday. As visually impressive as that finish was, there were enough little things mechanically that make me a little bit concerned about getting that extra eighth of a mile against better horses on the biggest stage. At the end of the day, though, Magnum Moon is a Grade 1 winner. He wins the Grade 1 Arkansas Derby, 98 Beyer, 116 Timeform US rating.